It's a very busy day for the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services, so let's go straight to him. Edward Kieswetter, very good afternoon and welcome to the show. And how did it feel being called out by the Finance Minister yesterday and being given a standing ovation by members of Parliament and guests to Parliament?
Hello, Africa. I must say that because we worked through the speech in the preceding days, I knew the Minister would, towards the end, he normally thanks the Commissioner and the team. So I knew that he would make a statement. What I really didn't expect was the response that the House would give. And so that was a special moment for me. Often the work we do is a thankless job. And only downside, when you get things wrong, you get criticized. When you get things right, then it's kind of just taken for granted. So from that perspective, it was special, and I will remember it for a long time.
Well, more of my social circle of friends are appreciating you than not at the moment because you've saved them a little bit more money that we'd need to hand over to the SARS team. The Finance Minister rightly saying that you've turned the revenue services around, but earlier today you were quoted as saying that more needs to be done to modernize South African revenue services. What would that include, do you think?
We're living in a time where restoring SARS to what it was 10 years ago would be going backwards. Because 10 years ago, technology did not offer what it offers today. 10 years ago, criminal syndication has not been as proliferated in the South African body politic and economy as it is today. And so our response today that is required is significantly more. Our work is more complicated. And this is not about a transactional response. It's a deeply systemic transformation of the tax and customs administration platform that requires an ongoing upgrade and diversification of skills and the deployment of the most latest technology. And in today's world, AI, agentic AI, that was not available even 5 years ago. So for me, modernization is not a project, but it has become a way of being.
The Finance Minister yesterday allocating an additional 7.5 billion rand to the revenue services over the next 3 years. What are the key areas that you will be focusing on in investing that amount of money? I appreciate that come budget speech next year, we'll probably have another commissioner and they may have very different ideas to yours. But what would you advise they spend that 7.5 billion rand on?
I don't mind them having different ideas. If they're better ideas, we absolutely will applaud that. But Africa, the 7.5 billion spread over 3 years was intended to improve the way we manage debt. Because we have a growing stock of debt, which is not disputed, but you need an intelligent case management system. We find ourselves that even when taxpayers do not dispute debt, that we need to have a system that identifies where that debt is, what's the highest propensity of debt, how do we use our limited resources to engage with taxpayers, what are the compliance landscape issues, what are the economic hardship issues. And we found, let me give you a data point, that in the last year, the stock of debt has grown by about 26%, but the complexity of that debt has also significantly changed in that as we gain traction in dismantling the criminal and illicit economy, we find that when we raise an assessment, it is far likely that it will be challenged. We'll end up in court. It's not as if we come across a taxpayer and we say, oh, by the way, you owe us, 500 million rand, that they say, oh, I'm so glad you found us. When, give me your account number, I'll pay it. There's a pushback, there's an engagement, often lots of lawyers, lots of legal processes. So the stock of debt to recover that requires more intelligence, a different level of skill, and enabling technology. So the work of collecting debt is much, much harder, but debt is just one narrow slice of what we do. And just going after debt would be transactional. What we need to do is to also use this money to deepen our capacity, institutional capacity, systemically, to respond not just to debt as a non-compliance issue, but all other areas of non-compliance.
Craig on the WhatsApp line saying, please ask the Commissioner about what is happening with the illicit tobacco industry and the role that the revenue services can play in bringing it under control.
It's a great question, and we did raise this yesterday. But what I would like to give Craig the assurance is that South African Revenue Service has made some significant strides in terms of a focus on the entire illicit economy, but specifically in the tobacco area. We have, as I said, a capacity to look at syndicated crime, and so we've been able to increase our focus on looking at compliance with licensing conditions at the manufacturing plants of cigarette manufacturers. We believe that we are entitled in law to survey. You know that we are in court because some tobacco manufacturers have taken us to court. They don't like the fact that we have installed closed-circuit television. We've also handed over 80 tobacco cases to the NPA, hoping that those will come to court soon to be heard. We have revoked about 6 licenses. We have stepped up our audit and investigation. And so slowly we are beginning to chip away at a massive elephant. One of the things we want to do differently this year, you would have heard the President raise it in the SONA and the Minister yesterday to some extent, is to say that one of the reasons we have not been successful at dealing with the illicit economy is we have had a fragmented approach up until now. What that means is SAPS is chewing at this elephant somewhere. SARS is chewing at the elephant somewhere. The BMA in another area. But we don't have a coordinated response to deal with the phenomena. And so sometimes you're fixing, different holes on the Titanic, but the Titanic is still going down because you haven't addressed the core issue. And so the first thing we are saying is we need to work more collaboratively as different agencies of government. We do a lot of work, and then we're reliant on the Hawks to do investigation. We're reliant on the NPA to bring these matters to court, and we are not prioritizing as smartly as we do. So that's the first issue. The second issue that we want to do differently this year, and by the way, we have had great success with the BMA and Home Affairs under the leadership of Minister Schreiber, together with SARS, to work more collaboratively and to engage Business Against Crime, BLSA, and business partners. We're looking this year at a completely different and more collaborative approach. What we have asked the Minister of Finance to do is do not allocate pockets of money to different institutions for capital investment. Your SAPS may very well go off and say they want to buy drones. The BMA may say they want to, more people, and they want body cameras, and they want new offices. SARS may say we want scanners. So we dilute our capital allocation, and we're fixing different parts of a very complex problem, as opposed to saying we want to fix Lebombo border post and sit the 4 agencies around the table, the 4 agencies being Home Affairs and BMA, SARS, SAPS, and the Defence Force, and say, what do we need to do to fix the borderline and the border post create a proof of concept. What does a smart border look like? And then we say to the minister, instead of giving each of us a little bit of money, fund the project and hold us accountable for fixing the entire system and not just a few holes that still leave the system largely in disrepair.
As I indicated earlier, 20 billion rand was found through your team's hard work that obviously helped very much with the budget that was announced by the finance minister yesterday. Where do you think other opportunities and low-lying fruits are pertaining to tax collection? We all bore witness, to you almost having a slight standoff with the minister a year ago when he was intending to increase VAT by 2%. And you argued that if the Treasury was to offer you a bit more money to invest in the tools you were putting in place, including manpower, to go after those who are avoiding paying tax, that might actually find you the money more likely than not. Where are those low-lying opportunities sort of laying at the moment?
So in a number of areas. So we spoke about just the outstanding stock of debt and having a focused attempt at collecting that debt. And as I said, it's increasingly more complex. Raising high quality audits in the complex financial space, in high wealth spaces. Transfer pricing is often an area for arbitrage and abuse. So improving the investigative and audit skills in complex financial transactions would help us. In the criminal syndication, I spoke about how I think we can do different there. In each of these areas, we believe that there's huge opportunities. In the latest study on the tax gap, we find the VAT as the most abused tax. And so there's significant opportunity to strengthen the end-to-end VAT administration platform to reduce the opportunity for non-compliance. We have seen that a focused effort on the deployment of AI have helped us prevent impermissible refunds. Now, VAT is one of the areas where dishonest or high-risk taxpayers would attempt to claim from the refund pool to get money back from SARS by making false disclosures and registering fake entities. And if we don't have the capacity to detect that, we'll pay out those refunds. Last year, we prevented just on R1 billion worth of refunds from flowing out of the fiscus because we are building this capacity. And when we say we need more money, it's not just about throwing more people at the problem, it's throwing a different level of skill at the problem, but also enabling that skill with deeper insight and enabling capacity from technology and AI.
I want to ask you, Edward, what you're going to be doing in your retirement. I think we're going to speak to you a few more times before you officially step down. But do you know when your last day in the office is likely to be?
So my contract ends on the end of April. So that's, unless I get fired between now and the end of April, that's when I will leave. And I haven't committed to anything else going forward. I obviously love this country and would always look to see where I can add value, but I need to just also stand back and reflect, reconnect with my family, do some writing that I think is long overdue, and just not just grab the next opportunity and without a moment of pause and reflection.
If the president was to call you into his office like he did 2 years ago and ask you for another extension of your contract, is that going to be an idea you're going to be entertaining?
Highly unlikely that I would get that call, because I've been very clear that I do think it's time for a leadership change at SARS. I think we have made a big investment in ensuring a strong bench strength, as strong as we can, with succession potential. We now wait for the President to make the announcement of the next commissioner. And if the next commissioner wants to call on me for any advice or any input as we hand over the batons, clearly I would make myself available to be helpful. But that will depend on the new commissioner, whether he or she believes that I can add value.
I'll finish off with a WhatsApp from a listener saying, received great service from your call center. Knowledgeable and friendly staff made my tax return a pleasure, even though I had to pay back money to the South African Revenue Services. Edward,
and that's so amazing that we actually, if I want to use this in equal jest to say we have been able to collect more taxes, but people trust us more. Trust has gone up from 48% to 75%, and taxpayer service from 54% to 90%. That's the real evidence of deep institutional rebuilding.
As I was reading that, Gavin was literally sending a message saying, I own a medium-sized business, and for over 23 years, I've proudly paid all the different taxes on time, for which I'm very proud. However, in recent years, it feels that SARS is not cooperating with me and my business by delaying refunds that are due, and it feels that SARS targets the registered taxpayers in various ways, as opposed to effectively going after people who are non-registered businesses or individuals. How do you respond to that, Edward?
Tell Gavin that we do not target people, but if he feels that he's entitled to a better service that he's currently receiving, I have a mailbox. It's called ooc@sars.gov.za, and Gavin and any other taxpayer who feels that they've not received a professional service are most welcome to escalate it.
Fantastic. Edward, thank you very much once again for your time. I know you've got a busy day. This day after the delivering of, the finance minister delivered his budget speech, to make that amount of time available to us, we appreciate it very, very much.